Welcome to the Runner Dudes podcast. Everyone is welcome. Runners are welcome. Walkers are welcome. The running curious are welcome. We're going to widen the door to running and soften the impact for anyone willing to lace up and show up. Today can be the day you take the first steps towards physical, mental, and spiritual well-being and become the person you are intended to be. We hope to inform, inspire, listen, learn, and help you start your own running journey, all while being moderately funny and low-key entertaining. Let's go, baby. All right, hey, welcome to the Runner Dudes podcast.
Hey.
Here we are.
We're here, man.
We are here. First of all, I want to start off by saying, what about that banger that Jimmy Thorpe leads off with?
For sure, that's going to be that's our hit single right there, man.
It's a hit single. I thought this was going to be a running podcast, but as it turns out, we're going to drop a mixtape and see how our rap career goes.
Maybe a new boy band.
That's it. So this first episode, this is episode 1. This is going to be intro to the dudes. This is obviously, as we heard in the tagline there, this is a running podcast. This is our first go at this, and so we're going to probably stumble.
This is my first podcast ever. This is it, man.
That's my man Dusty over there. He's confessing to this is his first podcast. This is my first podcast that's going to be mine, and I'm sort of in charge of, which is terrifying. So me being in charge of anything is kind of, I'm 44, and I'm just now getting to the point where I look around a lot of rooms and realize I'm the adult.
Yeah,
I know
how you feel.
And so what we're going to do on this first episode is just kind of introduce ourselves. And so my name is Michael England. For those of you who don't know, I've been running for several years, and I've asked my good friend. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself over here.
Hey guys, I'm Dusty Smith. Me and Michael have known each other for a few years. I'm kind of your manager and your day-to-day guy at Express Footwear and Running. Chances are you've seen me in there, or I've helped you pick out some your good rocket ship shoes. But yeah, man, I'm excited about this first podcast. Yes. And like I said, we're going to kind of tell our stories here, kind of what led us to become runners, and just share some cool information, hopefully.
Yes, and we want to grow the running community. And the reason that I wanted to, when I had this idea, and I thought about picking Dusty as the person to be on the podcast with me, is because every time I would go into Express Footwear, we would end up in a 45-minute conversation about running. And I thought, okay, this could be the guy that could be, bring some, and he always super informational. If you guys have 30 minutes and you want to talk about running shoes, go buy Express Footwear. And my man can tell you just all of the information about all the latest running gear. So that's kind of where this whole thing was born.
Yeah.
Was just our conversations in Express Footwear.
Yep,
and
sure.
So I can't even remember where I first met you, man. I think it's probably a local 5K or maybe the Haunted Half.
I think it might have been the Haunted Half, man. I'm honestly not really. I can't really remember. But yeah, and then of course we've run in probably a handful of marathons together too.
St. Jude.
St. Jude, Memphis, and then just crossed paths several times. And the store, the Bean, always trying to support the community and support each other for sure too.
Yeah, all right, dude. So we're going to start off here. I'm going to let Dusty kind of introduce himself, tell a little bit about his. We want to try to lend some credibility. Why are you listening to us, and why should you care what we think about running? And I think we're going to start with our own journey with running, and so that will lend a little bit of credibility, I hope. So Dusty, don't let me down here.
All right, guys, I'm going to just jump right into this. Michael already said it too. We're both 44 years old, so we do share that in common. I've been running now for about 25 years. Now that's not competitive running. That's just kind of your just recreational running. Of course, started out, I'm sure he did too, with kind of youth sports, basketball, baseball, football. I was really big into. Always loved track and field, stuff like that, man. Mm-hmm. My man Carl Lewis, I always loved that dude when I was young. That was kind of my era there.
The Olympics.
So after high school, I joined the Army before I graduated. Year before I graduated, joined the Army, delayed entry program. I was combat arms for 11 years, 3 tours Iraq, 1 Bosnia, 1 Kosovo. Saw some pretty nasty stuff.
Time out.
Yeah, man.
So Dusty said before we got started, he was like, "You're going to probably hear some things about me you didn't know. I didn't know that you were an actual American badass and a hero." My wife is shocked to find out that my very closest male friends, I couldn't even tell you what their jobs are. Like, that's a super dude thing. Like, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Like, we have very close friends. Couldn't tell you one thing about them.
Know what shoes they wear.
I know what.
That's how we pick them out.
I know what his PR in the half marathon is.
Strava stalk them.
Have no idea what he's been through.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Keep going. Now we're all learning together today, guys.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, that's one thing in my past that I've never really talked a whole lot about, and that's why a whole lot of people don't know anything about that. So, 11 years military, combat arms. Running was part of my daily routine.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, hey, man, thank you. Part of my daily routine for a long time. Didn't really have no choice.
I was going to say, was it optional?
It was not optional. It was not optional. They called that was the groundwork right there, man. That's how we got point A to point B. I was fortunate enough to be able to honestly moving from point A to point B. I did receive a lot of rides on helicopters and stuff like that. Things, but yeah. So anyway, that kind of led into another part of my life, man. Part of the military and part of growing up. I was still pretty young. You're boozing, you're partying. I'm sure everybody can relate to that stuff, man. You're just going down the wrong road. And like I said, hey, dude, 3 tours Iraq, 1 Bosnia, Kosovo. A lot of dudes I served with, man. A lot of dudes still here today. A lot of dudes not. So later on down the road, man, dealt with some issues that I didn't really know what it was. So that kind of led to a style of running that I call compulsive running, man. I just it's the wrong kind. You know, you're sleep deprived. You're just going at it. So after I had exited service, I had ETS service, moved back home. I'm from Rickman, Tennessee. My wife, Mandy. At the time, we didn't have kids. So another cool story. I always share this story. My son, Merrick, we adopted him from birth.
Yes.
And then that I was deep into starting to really train for some runs, for some serious runs. Like very first marathon I was training.
Yes.
Always
it's a lifestyle change.
Yeah, man, big time. I was kind of on his schedule. Mandy, she's not a morning person. I always took care of the morning work, then I'd go run. But like I said, that led into this compulsive kind of lifestyle with running. You know, it was something that I felt like I couldn't live without. It wasn't necessarily that it was helping me any because I was losing a lot of sleep. Well, come to find out, man, it was found out some damaging, I guess, something that was really shocking to me, something I never really thought of. PTSD. I deal with a little bit of PTSD.
Okay.
TBI. I've got 2 traumatic brain injuries, man. Had the old brain bucket rattled around a couple times.
Bro, I am floored by this. Dude.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be hearing this stuff, dude.
So I'd say a lot of people that'll be listening to this, hopefully, this will be the first time they've ever heard it too. My wife probably found out
sharing
that. Yeah, man.
This.
My wife probably found out this information well into about 10 years of service before she knew. And then after the fact, it's just like we're talking, man. You don't know anything personally about all your dude friends. You know, you just don't think anything of it. You know what the shoes they wear, that's it.
That's right.
Man, I didn't really know how to deal with it. I sure didn't want to tell anybody about it.
Shoot.
So you had to make a pretty rough decision then, because you don't want to abandon family. But I had to seek some inpatient therapy for this, man, just to kind of get this in check.
Now we're talking. Now we're off on a podcast.
After this is done, this is a lifestyle change. Had to make some serious changes with everything. Complete reset, man. You just hit the reset button.
Yes.
So then after that, that's when running started taking on a little bit better, a little bit deeper meaning.
Healthier too.
Healthier, man.
Yeah.
That was my therapy.
Yes.
That's kind of what I did. And then I was able to really know what running really meant to me.
Yes.
You know, it's not something that you don't need to treat it as a job. It's not super serious. If you treat it too serious, you're not going to have any fun. And that's what we're here to talk about, is how running can be fun, how accessible it is, and how everybody can do it. I don't care what you've went through, where you're at in your life. You can always start something new.
100%.
And so with all that, we talk about some stuff, and I set some personal goals for myself, like some long-term goals. Me and a good friend of mine, Adam Jolly, he was living at home before he got married. Then we were running every morning, and honestly, man, we started out, I had this mindset, dude, that I was not lacing my shoes up for anything less than 10 miles.
Yeah.
I felt like that was a waste. That was
it's a waste of your time.
Yeah, that was this mindset that I was in with the military too, man. I was hard charging, just going. So he and I kind of had to dial it down just a little bit, and man, we signed up for a first marathon together. We ran. It was the country music marathon then.
Yeah.
So we ran that together. That was a big deal. And then after that, it just kind of took off, man. I got the bug.
So the thing about a marathon is, I always tell this, is that there are two reactions to crossing the finish line in a marathon. Yeah. And one is, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
And the second one is, I can do that faster.
Yeah.
And then so I think that everybody falls into one of those two categories. My friend Ian that I trained for the Kentucky Derby Marathon, and I'll talk about Ian, but he was the reason that I even was training. I didn't want to run a marathon. And he kind of like goaded me into this thing. And so we crossed the finish line, and he was like, never doing that again. And I was like, I can do that faster. So I'm sure I can do that faster.
I was the same way. I just, I thought, well, I went ahead and signed up for one. That was in April. I went ahead and signed up for one in November.
Nothing crazy.
And then again, I did one in November, did one in December, then got roped in, not really roped in, but I knew a couple of folks that were telling me about the Flying Monkey. So that's in Harpeth Hills, right there inside the park. So it's basically a marathon that's completely uphill the entire way.
That sounds fantastic.
It was great. You don't know the distance.
What is wrong with us?
So the first time I did it, you have to write a 100-word essay, saying, "Hey, listen, this is why I want to do this." It just gives you a chance just to kind of, I don't know,
tell your story a
little bit. So did it 2 years in a row, and then. After that, a couple local races, got into it. Then I thought, what I really want to do is I'm gonna try to saw off an ultra. So did the Dark Sky 50 2 years in a row, 50 miles. Had it in my brain. This was my way of thinking. This is I'm not at all a certified coach here, but I feel like this is a pretty good approach to any kind of training. Decided, all right, for the next 5 days, I'm going to run a marathon every day.
That's perfect. Guys, listen. Anybody listening to this. We're getting way off in the deep end of the pool here. You don't have to run a marathon every day for 5 days. We're going to talk about that. Yeah. So this is a public service announcement here. I'm going to break in. Guys, calm out. Take a deep breath. This is Dusty Smith over here telling his personal story. You're not obligated to do this.
And this will lead up to possibly early on mistakes that you make in your training. But I was a whole lot younger then. It didn't affect me. But anyway, I completed it, and just to kind of ease my own mind about completing that distance. So long story short, I get up the morning of that ultra. I've got 103 temp.
Oh no.
I'm feeling like trash, but I've trained, man. I felt great.
Yeah.
Get there, drive there. It's at Big South Fork right there at Pickett State Park. Feeling pretty decent other than this fever. First 10 miles, I've just got, guys, I apologize, but I had the god-awfulest diarrhea for 10 miles.
And that's another thing, guys. This is a running podcast, and you're going to hear about poop.
Yeah.
So let's just go ahead and buckle up.
I'm going to apologize for that now.
No, yeah. So just I'm glad we're getting this out of the way early. Okay.
So, yeah, man, first 10 miles were just awful. Finally, basically just expunged myself, depleted, and was dehydrated. Finally got to the first big full-service aid station, grabbed a steak, couple pancakes, and just slammed some electrolytes. They had full-service aid station out there in the middle of nowhere. Got pulled back on track, was able to finish. There was a 13-hour cut, 13 hours and 34-minute cut. Made it in 13:06, so I was pretty stoked about that. And then it just kind of led from there. Did it again the next year. I think the first year there was 34 folks. Next year there was 32. And then in the middle of all that up and leading to now, I did 4 triathlons, couple Ironman distance, your halves, your fulls, your 70.3, 140.6. I did the Cloudland Canyon 100 miler. Wow. Which honestly was easier than the.
I kind of regret asking you to do this now because like you're an American hero and you've ran all these triathlons, and now I feel foolish in my short shorts and no shirt. Thank you for that.
Oh
Dusty.
man, sorry, dude. I don't. I'm not trying to diminish your story, but put you down. But anyway, yeah, man, that's just kind of what led me to where we're at now. I am a little. I feel like I am a little bit smarter. Just and one reason is by surrounding myself with some other like-minded folks,
Yes,
man.
for
And that's
sure. 100%.
At one time, I thought it was cool just to kind of run it solo. I felt good that way, but
Yes.
you realize after that, it's all about that. It's all about the camaraderie. It's all about the community. It's all about being there and just embracing the suck, man, with everybody.
Yes.
You're training in the cold. You train in the heat. You do it, and it's the one thing that I can relate to life better than anything.
Yes.
But anyway, I'm done.
Listen.
I'm going to give this over to Mike. Let him.
That was unbelievable. Jimmy, did you see American Hero coming out of this thing? And now let me tell you something, dude. Now we're off and running because we're talking about mental health.
Yep.
And we're talking about the things that running can help you with. And so that was my experience. Running for me, and we'll get in, this is actually going to be in our second episode, but running was always my experience as a child it was punishment from coaches and stuff. And so I spent my late teens, all my 20s, and the first half of my 30s drinking and smoking. And so that doesn't really necessarily prepare you to become a runner. But I got to age 35 and my life had really spiraled out of control. I was divorced. Friends were I had some really tough conversations with some really close friends, and I'm grateful for those conversations because I think they ultimately saved my life. I had a very close friend of mine that, he said I wasn't welcome at his house anymore. And I was like, ooh, that stings.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And so I knew at that point, and even that wasn't the end. I still had a little bit left in me. I kept drinking for a few months after that, but on May 28th, 2015, I had decided I had had enough and it was time to get sober. And that was the first day of the rest of my life, as they say. That was a game changer. And on that day was my first steps towards learning about all of the reasons that I felt the way I felt about myself. I had always felt less than, being 5'7.5". We're not going to forget that and a half. How tall are you, Dusty?
I'm 5'6", dude.
Let's go.
I'm 5'6", man.
Tallest guy in the room.
We're gonna have to get that check, get verified, man.
He wants to verify that 5'7.5". Listen, that's confirmed, baby. And depending on what day of the week and how many times I've been to Buffalo Wild Wings, I'm 140 pounds, man. Let's go. I'm a monster. But anyway, it was. I always felt less than. Always felt smaller than. And that was all in my head. I had a wonderful upbringing. I have wonderful parents. I've got a brother that I love very much, and I've got wonderful family. It's amazing how far down the rabbit hole you can get with your own mental health. And alcohol had always kind of been a great equalizer for me. And so once I got sober, I immediately knew that I had to find something that was going to occupy now all this free time I've got. Because when I quit drinking, it was taking up a large portion of my time. If I wasn't at work, I was drinking. And so you're talking several hours, 20, 30 hours a week I was drinking. And so my dad had been running 5Ks and 10Ks and half marathons, and he had run with some good friends of ours, Kelly Smith and Sharman Van Winkle. And so they all ran. They had this little group that they ran with. And then my friend Daniel Van Winkle, he started to run with me, and we would meet out at the park.
Awesome.
And listen, let me tell you, but my very first experience, I've told this story on several podcasts, and I think people, they see Dusty as this like great runner. They see Michael as a really good runner, and they think that we just showed up like that. And so that couldn't be any further from the truth.
Right.
My first run was I dug some old Nike Air Max lifestyle shoes, bro. These are not running shoes, right? If somebody came to you and said, should I run in some Nike Air Max 180, you'd laugh at them, right? And so I've got these Air Max on, and I go to Cumberland County High School track. I literally smoked my last cigarette out of a brand new pack. But it got me an $8 pack of smokes, bro, and smoked one cigarette and put the rest of them in the trash. And I barfed. I ran 1 mile, and it was probably like a 12-minute mile. But I swore, I was like, I'm not going to stop and walk. I'm going to run this mile, or they're going to have to like airlift me out of here. And so luckily I didn't die. It was, at this point, it was in June. And so it was hot, and I threw up. But I remember thinking to myself, I can do better than that. Like, I think I could probably run 1 mile and then not barf. And so that's the goal for tomorrow. We start small, right?
That's exactly right.
And so I asked Daniel, I asked Dad and his friends if I could start showing up and running with them. And it's humbling to show up and get dropped by your 60-year-old dad, 65-year-old dad. And so that happened for a long time. And then at some point, running and sobriety and mental health all kind of locked into this one journey.
Yeah.
And so I credit, and it's almost what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Was it the running, or was it the AA? Was it the relationship that I was trying to cultivate with a higher power? It was everything. And for the first time in my life, I experienced that physical, mental, spiritual connection. And that once all of them are doing better, all of them are doing better, if that makes sense. And so for the first time in my life, I started to feel good about myself, and I took pride in my running. And I started showing up. I remember my first age group win. That's a big deal, bro.
Yeah, man.
Wake up on a Saturday and to kind of go from feeling so low about yourself and to leave a race with a medal, dude, that's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
That's a big deal. But I will tell you this: just I ran my first race ever was Race for the Park After Dark.
Yeah,
8K. I was nervous as I could be on the way to Cookeville. I was living in Crossville. I wasn't sure I could cover the distance. It was 5 miles.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure I could run 5 miles. And so finishing that race that night, and that was the first time I remember I got to take they asked me to be in the group picture with all the Crossville runners. And I just remember thinking,
hit the big time.
I hit the big time, baby. Like, these are the fit running people we're talking about, Anjanette and all Charmin and Kelly and Dad and all these people from Crossville that I looked up to as fit, running, active people. And I'm in this picture with them, and the camaraderie after the race. Is there anything better?
There's nothing. My wife refers to all of them as my running family.
Yeah,
this is like your running family. You do this with your running family.
Your running family.
Yeah, man.
And I love hearing about everyone else's experience in the race. They love hearing about my experience in the race. And so the idea for this, and I could go on and on, I'm not going to, but the point is, I'm glad me and Dusty told our story, because the point of this is that I want everyone to experience this.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and Dusty, I know you've probably had this, people feel like they have to apologize to me, like they tell me like why they can't run or why they won't run. And I'm like, well, first of all, you can.
Or they tell you first off, I don't run if I'm running, something bad's wrong.
That's right. That's the joke.
Yeah.
And how many times you heard it? If I'm running, there's a bear something's chasing me. I'm like, well, maybe the best days of your life are chasing you, man. Maybe if you wanted to have and I tell everybody, if you've got an hour, you want to come back and sit down someday, I can tell you how you can get involved in this. And so I've ran the Boston Marathon. Yeah. I've ran several marathons. And so I have gotten to a point where people look at me as a pretty serious runner, and I still don't feel any different than the guy who barfed at Cumberland County High School that day. And so running has given me so much. I want to try to give back to running. I love the community that we have in Cookeville, just in general, but we also have a great running community, and it's growing.
We do. And we've got a lot of good opportunities, and it's just about the camaraderie. And it doesn't matter if you're running, if you're walking.
Yes,
it doesn't matter.
Yes,
you're there to just to be able to share, just to be able to plug in with some folks, and you don't ever know till you try something new.
Yes, the people that I've met, I've never met a more encouraging group of people. I remember, and I hope to one day maybe have Fidel, my friend Fidel Balderas in Crossville. We showed up to the park where there was a 5K at the park, and he was starting his fitness journey. I was starting my fitness journey, and I remember it was the first time I won. I won, and Fidel came in second, and we were literally walking down the line. Like, I'm walking and looking behind me. Fidel's kind of and then we run, and then when Fidel would start running, I would start running. And then so we built this relationship where we're trying to beat each other, but we're also cheering for each other.
Right.
And so, and then we running friends that I met on courses have become some of my best friends. I've got 3 dudes that I'm really close with that I met on the course in Memphis. Literally met them on the course running. One of them ended up coming to the Exceptional Bean the day we opened and has been a huge donor to the Exceptional Bean. I mean, God works in so many cool ways.
Absolutely.
When you're doing what your body was physically intended to do, and so the positivity that comes from running events is palpable. Yeah, wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, and just like you said, man, it's good to see guys and girls that you've met along the way, your journey, and you see them. I've had several guys that I've known that are completely on opposite ends of the states that come and visit the store.
Right.
And man, that's encouraging. That's great that they know they support you. They support what you're about.
Yes. And I want to say something too, and this will kind of lead into, we're getting into our second episode, but honestly, what the podcast is about is we do want to cultivate, grow. We want to make this running thing accessible to as many people. I also want to talk about express footwear that we've got out on Interstate Drive, I think how that's going to help grow our running community and be just a central hub for people to get great equipment and get to talk to Dusty. And so we've got so many cool episodes coming up. Again, bear with us. I made the joke earlier today that this is going to we're going to stumble around. This is going to be like season 1 of Sopranos. You got to stick around to like season 3 of Sopranos if you're going to make it through. So I hope we didn't run anybody off today. I hope all the stories about barfing and pooping hasn't discouraged you from running.
Yeah.
Listen.
That wasn't the intention, guys. But just like you said, you're just going to have to deal with it.
That's part of it. And, all of the things, if you would have shown me a picture of the split shorts that I now run in on day 1, I'm not sure that I would have stuck around.
Hey, listen, I'm going to make this confession too. I'm not wearing the split shorts, but I was the guy that I had no idea what Lululemon was.
Yeah.
But I'm bougie now. That's all I run in.
Yes.
So I want to thank a good friend of mine, Luke Holshoe. I'm sure he's going to be listening too, but I appreciate him for contributing to that. And man, that's all I run in now. But I hadn't graduated to the split shorts yet.
Let me tell you something, dude. Once you go, it's a slippery slope, okay? And I started out in like and 1 basketball shorts, right? So all the way down to like I'm talking like 07 and 1s. And then I got them first pair of 7-inch running shorts. I was like, okay. Then we went 5-inch. Then we went 4-inch. And then I ordered a pair of 2-inch. I put them on and CG was like, absolutely not.
Dangerous
Are you leaving the house looking like that? And I was like, let me do a couple deep knee bends, make sure everything's staying where it needs to stay. And we did a couple of deep knee bends. And I'm going to tell you, there is nothing greater on earth than running in 2-inch split shorts. And I'm going to tell you where my goal is, 1-inch BOA split shorts.
Oh, my.
So, listen, there's going to be a lot more talk like that. We're hoping to be funny. We're hoping to be entertaining. We will be talking about split shorts, chafing, pooping, puking, every single thing that you can imagine that goes along with running. You can become a runner. We can help you get there, and so we hope you continue to tune in. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
The Runner Dudes podcast is sponsored by Express Footwear and Runner Dude Coaching and Consulting. Produced by Jimmy Thorpe at sightandsoundcreative.com.